Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I kind of have sort of a personal gripe or a personal complaint type of video. By the way, it's very, very hot. I'm actually on the second floor of the house. The AC hasn't been on up here all day, and I'm not going to turn it on because it just makes noise. I am sweating, so if I look kind of glossy, that's the reason why. But there's been this thing, as you know, I do a lot of thrifting. That is one of my hobbies. That's one of the only hobbies that I can really have with my symptoms and that kind of thing. I actually had to stop for a couple of years. I think it was like one solid year that I had to stop when the pandemic started, and then once vaccines started coming out, I kind of picked up thrifting again. And I did feel the difference because it's the only outing that I have during the whole week. But there's this bizarre controversy on social media regarding resellers. Basically, people that thrift and flip items and resell them for a higher price. There is this very irrational amount of hatred and anger towards resellers that I just don't understand. And I kind of wanted to clarify some things because, this is a hobby that, a lot of people have. This is a hobby that might be a necessity for a lot of people because it brings in a little bit of extra cash. They're trying to pay bills. But this is also a hobby that does appear to be popular for people that have chronic illnesses or chronic conditions. I have met other people that have medical issues, people that have had cancer, and that kind of thing through a lot of reseller apps. And I do feel that it's just so unfair to portray resellers like these horrible people. Like I said, it's a strange, irrational hatred. And as I mentioned before, it's one of the only hobbies that I have. Basically the only hobby I have right now, and it's done a lot for my mental health and just for my financial health as well. So really, I do take it kind of personally when I see a lot of actually misinformation and things that are dishonest circulating online. So, why did I start reselling? This was many years ago. So a long time ago, my mom and her friend, they had a yard sale here at our house, and her friend had this Gucci bag. I didn't know if it was real or anything, and so I was like, "Oh, it's a nice bag." She's like, "You can have it if you want." It was big, so I kind of thought, this will be a good bag for traveling. If I take little trips. I wasn't a huge traveler, but it was big enough to store, clothes for a weekend, that kind of thing. So she gave me the bag, and I never thought about whether it was real or anything like that. I just liked it because of the size. Fast forward many years, and I'm sick, and I mean, I'm not going anywhere. And so I'm in debt. I have a lot of medical debt, and I saw this bag. It was just sitting in my closet, and I was like, I wonder if that thing is real. I didn't know who it belonged to. It didn't belong to my mom's friend. It belonged to her niece, who I wouldn't say she's wealthy, but they have a lot of money. So I was like, there's a good chance that it could be real. And so I didn't want to sell it through Craigslist. Craigslist is not very safe, and I wanted a reliable place to sell it through. And so I discovered Poshmark and Mercari and that kind of thing. And I listed it. I didn't list it for a lot of money, and it sold immediately. I was asked if it was authentic. I said, I think it is, but I can't guarantee it. And I showed all the things, there's serial numbers and things like that. And I made, a decent little chunk of cash. And I could have probably made a lot more money, but I didn't know whether the bag was real and what it was worth. I'm not familiar with that kind of stuff. So that's how I started. And I saw that I could make money through there, and I was like, well, that's cool. And then, I started getting familiar with the brands that were selling on there. And, I started recognizing some of the logos. And I was like, hey, I have a t-shirt with that logo, in my closet. Sure enough, I would list it and it would sell because it was an expensive brand and I didn't know that it was. So over time, I became more familiar, and that's when it turned into a hobby. But I wanted to point out that people resell for a variety of reasons. One of them is that's the only thing that you can do. You're disabled, you can't really do anything else. A lot of stay-at-home moms making a little bit of extra cash on the side. And also stay-at-home moms that have disabled kids. Sometimes you don't have a choice and you have to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of your kids. There's no one else that can take care of them the way that you can. I have seen a lot of people fundraising for a special cause, breast cancer awareness, for animal shelters, for to pay off their own medical bills. And I have seen that several times. I've seen people that they'll put a post, that says anything that you buy from my closet, the profits go to this organization. There are some people that have not qualified for Social Security, and for whatever reason they can't qualify for it, and this is just a way to make some extra cash. For me, it's a hobby. It's a way to get my mind off of this horrific illness. It's also a way to, it's an excuse to shop and buy stuff and not to overspend, because I end up selling most of what I buy, and whatever I end up keeping basically is free because I've made a profit off of everything else. This was also kind of the way that I would treat myself, and I will have a video talking about that people with chronic illnesses do have a right to treat themselves to things, every now and then. And so I found this as a viable way to buy myself clothes, without overspending, because I'm just living off of Social Security. And so I would see stuff that I liked and it was like, well, you don't need that. You have bills to pay. I had a lot of debt, years ago when I sold that Gucci bag. I was in a lot of debt and I was trying to find a way to reduce that debt somehow, while being on a fixed income. At the time my Social Security was less than what it is now, and the majority of it was going towards bills. So, I wasn't focused on buying clothing, and things like that, because I was like, I don't need that. And really that money could be going towards paying down my medical debt. And medical debt is ongoing. When I say medical debt, I think a lot of people think of, okay, well, you have $5,000 of medical debt. Eventually you'll pay it off. If you're chronically ill, that medical debt never ends. I'm still in debt to this day. It's not as bad as it was, but I'm still in debt to this day. And it's ongoing. You're always going to be paying medical bills because you are always seeing a doctor. But also another reason people do reselling is to raise money for medical treatment. And I have also seen that as well. And as you guys know, I've been looking into stem cells and things like that, and this money has come in handy because it still allows me to afford fun little things like clothes, clothes or whatever little things I want to buy myself without dipping into my savings that are, going to be depleted with other, treatments. But I still get to buy myself, a dress or, something cute that I want. It's been a very disability friendly hobby for me. When it comes to something like Poshmark, you list it. I can do it. I can literally even do it while I'm laying in bed. I can make a listing while I'm laying in bed. All I need is my phone. And if somebody buys my item, they send me the label, slap the label on, and I take it into the post office. I'm in and out in a second. I can't make a line at the post office because I'm sensitive to the lights in the post office. And also with COVID going around, I don't want to be inside anywhere for a prolonged period of time. I literally go in there, there's a box inside the post office, you just drop it in there and throw it in there. That's why I like this hobby so much, because it's so easy for me to do, and it's so low risk for me that, I mean, why not, and I make a little bit of extra cash. It keeps me from going absolutely out of my mind. Like I said, it's the only time I leave the house on the weekends when I go thrifting. And I can't do it all the time, because when the weather gets hot like this, being outside, I can't go into Goodwills or thrift stores, so I can't do my thrifting in there. I do it outside. So when the weather gets hot, it is I kind of have to stop, or I have to go very early in the morning. But it's the only time I get out of the house during the week. Like I said, I get to shop and not go broke. It is mentally and physically challenging. I just have to be careful with the physically part, but it is probably the most exercise I get in a week. But it does physically challenge me, but mentally I have had to actually put thought into the things that I buy. I've had to become familiar with certain brands. I've had to become familiar with certain trends, things that are popular right now in clothing. And it has actually given my brain a little bit of something to think about and to sort of learn. It was something that I had to learn, and it did take a while. There was a big learning curve there, and I probably lost some money, but it was relatively low risk, which is also good for those of us on a fixed income. So it's a very low risk hobby for me. Believe it or not, and this is something that recently I have learned to appreciate. I'm going to drink some water before I dehydrate. You can probably see that I'm sweating. It has given me, I don't know what the right term is, serotonin or dopamine. It's given me a boost of something good in my brain. And when you are chronically ill, you just don't get that anymore. You don't get that from anything. You don't get the dopamine boost. You don't get the it's very difficult to be happy, even sometimes when happy things are happening. And every time I make a sale, every time I list an item and it's really popular and I see that people really like it, believe it or not, that's the one thing that has kind of gotten me through this pandemic, because the good thing was that I still had things to sell during the pandemic. Even though I wasn't thrifting, I had bought so much stuff that I still had a lot of stock in my in my closet to sell. And whenever I would sell something, it really gave me that dopamine boost. And I think that's why I've kind of gotten a little addicted to it, because it gives me that feel good vibe that I can't get with anything else. I can't have a lot of sweets, and we know that sweets can also give you a dopamine boost. I can't eat a bunch of food, and food can also give you that dopamine boost. I'm not dating, I'm not doing all of those things that typically give people those feel good vibes. And it sucks. Your life is devoid of dopamine and serotonin or whatever keeps you from feeling like crap. So you suffer from depression, you suffer from anxiety, you're ruminating all day because you have nothing to do with your time. And I will tell you, this hobby has probably saved my life, because if I didn't have it, I would have absolutely nothing. And to me, when I see people saying such horrible things, that resellers should burn in hell, which I have actually seen that, resellers should burn in hell for what they're doing. I don't understand that. I don't get it. It's also an eco-friendly hobby. I mean, who doesn't like that? That's huge right now. You're selling stuff that would end up probably in a dump. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions. And I think the reason why a lot of these people get so angry is because there is this perception that resellers are taking clothes away from the poor. By the way, a lot of resellers are the poor. I'm just going to tell you that right now. A lot of resellers are people who are, they don't have a lot of money. That's why they're reselling. because it's not easy work. It does get kind of hard, and there are days when I probably shouldn't be doing it. Days when I'm not feeling good, days when it's very hot, because it is physically taxing and it requires a lot of work to find one thing that might sell really well. But this misconception that we're taking clothes from the poor and marking it up and selling it at this huge profit because we're greedy is just a lie. A lot of places like Goodwill, Goodwill being the biggest one, they recognize expensive brands. You know, when you're looking at something like Michael Kors or a brand like All Saints, things like that, brands that you may not be familiar with, these stores are familiar with those brands and they do mark them up. So if you are a poor person or a low income person, you're not going to be buying those brands in the from the store. You're not going to be buying that because it's still not, affordable for you. And the anger should be directed at these stores, at these thrift stores that are marking things up because they know that it will increase their profits. The good thing is that those profits go towards programs, because I know Goodwill, I think they provide like programs for people that are looking for work or something like that. I don't know exactly. I just know that they are a charitable organization. But it is a misconception to say that clothing is being taken away from low income people, because it isn't. The stores are already marking it up. Designer brands are not going to be affordable for someone who is low income, who is looking for affordable clothing at a thrift store. So don't blame resellers for that. We're spending probably, more money than we should buying these items and reselling them at a reasonable profit. By the way, these reseller apps also take between 10 and 20% of your profit. So we're not making that much. A lot of my profits are very small, but they're cumulative. I find a lot of a type of item that I know will sell, even though my profit margin is pretty small. But that, essentially that belief that we're taking from the poor, that we're leaving poor people with no options. I don't know if you guys noticed during the pandemic, people were overwhelming thrift stores because they were donating. They were literally leaving bags of clothing and all kinds of other stuff, furniture on the sidewalks. And a lot of these stores had to tell people to stop doing that because they could not accommodate the amount of stuff that was being donated. So there is no shortage of clothing, of furniture, of these types of items. They're not going to run out. And to be honest, there's probably a surplus, and it is a problem. It is a huge problem. If you donate to a thrift store, you actually have to call them. I've been told by Goodwills, because I have had to donate some things. And the Goodwills have told me, like, you need to call in advance because we only accept donations between certain hours during the day, because we're getting so many donations that it's becoming overwhelming. Our sidewalks are littered with bags. People aren't even coming into the donation center. They're just throwing the bags on the sidewalk. So it's just a huge, huge misconception that there's this shortage of clothes for low income people. And it's not just low income people that are shopping at thrift stores. A lot of people are doing that now because we are having serious environmental issues related to fast fashion and just waste, clothing waste. So, I kind of wanted to talk about that because as a disabled person, like I said, this may have saved my life on several occasions, because there were moments when I was like, I'm gonna go nuts, being stuck at home, being in debt, feeling desperate, feeling stuck. And to see people just, for whatever reason, being so angry at resellers, it's just a bizarre thing to me. It's so bizarre and so misinformed that I was like, I have to make a video about this. And also to inform you guys that it could be a viable hobby for you if you're disabled. Look at the stuff that you have at home. You never know what you have. Like I said, I've discovered things in my closet that were designer. I didn't know because I bought them at the swap meet and I thought, oh, that's a cute top. And I bought it. I was not familiar with any designer brands. and it just happened to be designer. And I was like, well, I'm in debt. I'm going to sell it even though I like the way it looks on me. Unfortunately, those of us who are sick and chronically ill and in debt have to make those choices. I can either have a cute top or I can sell it and pay off medical bills. So, having to face those kinds of choices and then seeing people say that someone like me should go to hell is really, it's like adding insult to injury, basically. So I just wanted to make that video. I wanted to get it off my chest because it's just something, I've seen it so much on social media, and I don't understand the rage directed at those of us that resell. But anyways, thank you for joining me. Leave a comment if you want to know anything else about my reselling and my thrifting. I don't talk about it a lot on this channel, but it is one of my hobbies. It's been a growing hobby of mine in the last several years. If you want to know more, leave a question. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.